Hello, Dahi here from the Campaigns Working Group, and today we'll take a look at the overview of the New South Wales state election campaign in 2019. We'll look at a number of things today, starting with the priorities that we need to address and get in order as quickly as possible to make this campaign work. We'll look at the overall objectives and timelines for the campaign. We'll take a high-level look at the general political landscape and demographics of New South Wales and how it applies to us. Then we'll speak further about candidates and the process in relation to selecting and developing and promoting candidates on the campaign. We'll also address communications and campaign messaging. Very important aspect is recruiting members and volunteers, because this is the time when we will get a huge amount of interest from people. Then there's some pointers on media protocols. Then at the end, just to close out, we'll speak very briefly about voter contact plans, how to get out there and reach people, and setting up a campaign team to run the campaign from start to finish. The main priorities that we need to address are first candidates, as we need a minimum of 15 candidates to register for above the line voting. Above the line voting is a feature of the voting process in New South Wales, which means that for flux to be grouped as a ticket for the upper house, where we can avail of preferences, we need to have a minimum of 15 candidates registered for legislative council seats. So there is a considerable amount of work involved in sourcing candidates, vetting candidates, and then developing candidates so that they're able to go out on the election trail. For the campaign, fundraising is very important, as we'll need at least $20,000 if we want to have any real chance and make an impression in this campaign. The candidate deposits will be a minimum of $5,000, and then there's printed materials and advertising costs to go on top of that. The other main priority is comms and messaging in relation to organising flyers, because of the lead time associated with design and so forth, and getting social media organised, and also templates for press releases, just to streamline the process of getting information out into the public domain once the election is officially on. Then there's also the requirement for training for interviews for all of the candidates, to ensure that they can go out and engage with the media, either through newspapers and television interviews, and try and promote their campaign and flux. So for this campaign, the objectives, the only way to measure whether we're doing something well in a campaign is to set some objectives so that we can measure afterwards how we track against those initial aims. Our objectives for this campaign are primarily to get somebody elected, and that will happen. There's a better chance of that happening for a legislative council seat than for a legislative assembly or lower house seat, simply due to the way that the voting counting systems differ between the upper and lower houses. That's our main objective. The next main objective really is to increase public awareness and public perception around flux and what it is we're trying, the philosophy and ideas and solutions that we're trying to bring. Then developing the New South Wales party network and infrastructure. So during the time of a campaign, this is when we will gain the most traction in that locality, and there will be a lot of people coming on board who want to get involved. And now really is the time to get that party network set up and those communication channels open and bringing people into the organisation. And also, due to the timing this year of the federal election, the New South Wales election will really serve as an opportunity for us to build momentum going into the federal election, where we intend to run candidates across the whole country. Now, in terms of a timeline for a campaign, the minimum amount of time we would need to run any type of campaign is about 10 to 12 weeks. And this slide just gives a very general overview of the things that you focus on at different times of the campaign. So up front, just very important for us to start bringing volunteers on board from the membership base. So we have to reach out to our members and try and bring people on as volunteers and start giving people tasks and finding out what it is they can offer and contribute and how they can help out. We also need to focus on continually growing the membership base. So as we're starting to prepare for this, we need to be mindful that New South Wales will be our focus for now, and so any efforts that we make in social media or logistics at this time would be around growing the membership base in New South Wales at this particular time. We also need to identify candidates because we do have a process for vetting and selecting candidates, and so it's really important that that people either self-identify or nominate other people who they think would be good candidates as early as possible, because we really want to develop candidates for the long term. But in the initial weeks, identifying candidates is very important. And then also developing the comms plan and how we're going to get information out into the media. Now, another way this timeline here has some more specific dates for the New South Wales election in it. You'll see the big day is Saturday, the last in week 9, election day. The other big days on this calendar for us are the Wednesday of week 7. That's the day when we must get all of our paperwork in with regard to the candidate nominations. We have a very tight window in which to get that done, just due to the timing of the party being registered 1 year ago. Also, key things to look at would be that week 1, where we start really reaching out to volunteers. That's going to be in January, which will happen very, very quickly. We'll also look to have our candidates confirmed before the nominations open. So that will be in week 5. So New South Wales, the general landscape of New South Wales is not that different from many of the other Australian states. Currently has a Liberal Nationals government, but a strong Labour opposition there. But it's worth noting that while New South Wales doesn't have group voting ticket, which tends to bring a lot of minor and micro parties, there is a considerable amount of, let's call it like non-mainstream party votes. So from the Christian Democrats down through to independents, there's a significant proportion of the New South Wales population who are happy to vote for someone other than the Big Four. Now, what that means in relation to the scale of our campaign is that for the upper house, the way it works is there is one region with optional preferential voting, which results in 42 legislative council seats. That's the upper house. For the lower house, there are 93 districts and one candidate is elected per district, meaning there will be 93 legislative assembly seats filled with filled after the election. Now we will be focusing our attention on contesting the upper house, our legislative council seats. And in the last election, just to give a comparison of a target by which someone can potentially get elected in New South Wales, the Animal Justice Party got elected after preferences with 1.73% of the vote, which is about nearly 75,000 votes. So that is, I suppose, just a line in the sand as to a minimum target as to what would be required to get elected in New South Wales. New South Wales uses a system of counting known as optional preferential voting for the upper house elections. What this means is that people are not obliged to list preferences, and parties don't get to transfer preferences. People simply get to put a number 1 through to how many preferences they want to allocate. But what this results in is that the majority of people simply number 1 preference, as in 84.5% of people simply write 1 for one particular party, and after that the votes do not get redistributed. So what this means is that there's a very small margin for parties to gain via preference transfers. You'll see it's only that remaining 15% of votes that work through preferences. But nonetheless, it does mean that it is possible for someone to claw back and to make some progress and potentially get elected via those optional preferences. With regard to candidates, as mentioned, we need a minimum of 15 to participate in the Legislative Council elections to form a group for above the line voting. That's just simply from a strategic perspective, that's a minimum requirement for us. Then our Legislative Assembly candidates or lower house candidates will in essence support the Legislative Council campaign. Registration costs associated for candidates range from $250 for a lower house to $500 for an upper house candidate. However, just the way the upper house payment is structured, there's a limit, there's a ceiling between 11 and 20, so 15 upper house candidates works out at $5,000 instead of $7,500. Now, all candidates must be vetted and given appropriate training. So what we mean by this is there's a number of background checks that we would like to perform, like to do with all of our potential candidates, just basic due diligence, and also to assess people, just to assess where people are at in terms of their understanding and their competence in terms of engaging with the media or speaking in public, and to give people support and training as required. Now, in relation to the budget, election campaigns cost money, obviously, and candidate deposits make up a considerable portion of the expenses for a campaign. So our target for the campaign would be, if we were able to run 15 upper house candidates and then another 10 to 20 lower house candidates, which would mean we would have candidate deposits in the region of $10,000. Then other significant costs throughout the campaign are in relation to promotional materials, flyers, posters, Facebook ads, core flutes, newspaper ads. It's simply a matter of how much money you can raise and how you think you can best allocate it during a campaign. But those are just very provisional figures, just designed to give people an idea of the different types of figures and kind of what's possible with different amounts. So for example, a max power campaign would be where we run upper house candidates and lower house candidates in every district as well, which would be a really powerful campaign, having flux candidates on every single ballot sheet in the state. So who are we looking to appeal to? Our voters in New South Wales, ultimately everybody, but generally tend to come from the younger demographics, uh, educated and tech savvy people, and often people who are dissatisfied with the political status quo and who are seeking change. There is a lot of people out there who for whom our idea really appeals to them. And for us, it's really a matter of just getting ourselves in front of them and explaining to them why we're worth voting for at this point in time. Now, a key part of every campaign is recruiting new members and converting them into volunteers to support the campaign. So there will need to be a targeted online campaign to drive membership and a process to convert people to volunteers by assessing their skills and hooking them up with people who are in their local areas. So all of our new members come through the website. We link from Facebook to Twitter back to the website, and then converting volunteers. That needs to happen via good communications and by setting up real life events where we bring members in, get them talking about what it is they're interested in doing, and then giving them, getting people to complete tasks to get things done. With every campaign, there's always a lot of time and effort spent on giving info for new volunteers and new members. It's always things around how Flux works, the blockchain and technology aspect, the campaign plan and how it all fits together so they can see how they can get involved. There's often questions around legal things relating to media protocols, which I'll discuss in a little while. And people are always asking questions as well about the local political issues of the day. So in this case, the New South Wales state political issues. So all of this needs to be packaged into information that can be shared easily with new members and volunteers, either through the website or Facebook or through an email campaign. When it comes to organising for the campaign, in essence, candidates must be the ones who drive the campaign. They're the ones really who will be accountable. They're the people on the ballot paper, and ultimately the success of the campaign is on them. That there will be, of course, a team of people working together, but the candidates will be central to the campaign. In terms of how we communicate and organise, we'll use things like Slack or Facebook groups to organise as the campaign unfolds. And how we get things done, just very basic project management. We plan and figure out what needs to be done in advance. Then we spend time communicating and telling each other what needs to be done to coordinate, and then we just get people to turn up and do it. Now, there are some rules and protocols around campaign materials for elections, predominantly relating to the authorization of party posters and messages and so forth. And it simply means that any promotional materials that come from Flux have to be authorized before they can be published, really. And it's just a matter of ensuring that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. It's not a game changer, but it's just something we need to be mindful of. It's something that will be discussed in more detail as the campaign unfolds as well. Then just getting out there and contacting voters, a variety of ways that we need to be doing this. And it's very easy to start setting, as volunteers start coming in, to start getting them to go out and communicate with people via all of these different channels. Word of mouth, social media, door knocking, stalls, public events, etc. And then for candidates to be engaging with the media, TV and radio, and live local events. So how the campaign team will work together, in essence, we'll have the New South Wales Steerco and Campaign Working Group working together very closely. The Campaign Working Group will work with the local team in New South Wales to coordinate with the membership coordinators, field ops, or the people who will be out, we'll say, managing stalls or door knocking or whatever it might be, and then a team managing media and comms who will work with the candidates to ensure that the candidates' message is getting out there. So the campaign team is still to be determined, but these are just an example of some of the roles that are involved. There are some people who we have in mind for some of these, but if there's areas where you'd like to get involved, absolutely let us know and we'll bring you into the loop. There's a variety of ways that people can get involved, varying from out in the field, just door knocking, or door knocking is not your thing, just setting up a stall, or putting up posters or handing out flyers in the local community. Content creators, people to write, make movies, whatever it might be, and so many other ways that people can get involved. So I do invite you to get in touch, get involved, and hopefully we can get this campaign for New South Wales up and running real quick. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much.